Hello, what is up guys? It is Keegan here, and today I am bringing you a draft analysis of the WBG. This is a new VGC Wi-Fi draft league that I'm taking a part of. Yes, you heard that right, Wi-Fi VGC Draft League. If you have any knowledge of my VGC career, you'll know it is non-existent. I have not played a lot of VGC. I did play at the Toronto Regionals just the past month in October. Did very, very poorly at that. Half of my wins were against people who didn't show up, but I'm super excited to try this. I get to play with a lot of cool people that I played in a lot of draft leagues with that you'll probably recognize. OG Albina, Kirby is playing in this league, which is super exciting. It's whatever, Ant is playing as well. I got to meet all three of those players in Toronto, as well as Olivia Sama. Olivia, who you might know from Major PL, MPL, way back in the day. If you somehow are on my channel from that or remember that from that long ago, that's the last time Liv and I played in the league together. Okay, actually that's a lot. We played in NCP together, but you know what I mean. I get to play against a lot of cool people and a lot of people who are VGC specific players. So there's going to be a little bit of some of us who are not learning VGC for the first time, but some of us who are bringing in our singles draft league experience and expertise, and then a lot of VGC draft players and VGC players in general. So a little bit of a mix here, which is going to make this league super, super interesting. I'm super excited for that. So if you guys are excited for that, be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Going to be uploading this every Wednesday, I think. We don't have a super set schedule. I think the plan is for everything to come out on Wednesdays. So next week's will be the first battle. That's actually already happened at this point. So I've already played that battle against Ant. We'll get into the schedule at the very end. So let's talk about the team. This is going to be kind of a little bit of a low-tech video for this time, only in that I'm not the most knowledgeable at VGC, so I'm not kind of going all out on this. I'm going to give a little bit of a perspective on my team, why I made the decisions, and where I'm coming at this VGC season from. One of the things I did in Toronto, and I think was a big mistake, was I brought a really technical and difficult team. And I made a lot of really big mistakes, I think, in terms of play and preparation. So that's something I really do want to, make a little bit different in this season, is playing a lot more offensively. You've seen the Pokemon that's up on the screen right now. It's definitely going to function in that. And my goal is to really put the pressure on my opponents as much as humanly possible early on in games. And you're going to see the type of team I drafted. That's what we're going to do. So let's start with Flutter Mane. So I had the first overall pick, and apparently my understanding from Liv is that there's a lot of Pokemon that are viable first overall picks. Apparently one of them's Iron Hands, which if you know me, you know I love a good old Iron Hands in Pokemon. So maybe I could have taken that. But in terms of what I'm looking to, how I'm looking to play, and what I think my best path to success in VGC is, I think Flutter Mane is likely the best way to do that. And the reason it's the best way to do that is it's going to be one of the best Terra abusers. And the way that Terra works in this league is it's Terra Preview, and it's open Terra. So kind of similar to VGC, and that every Pokemon on your team has the ability to Terra, but we have to be open team sheet about our typings. Now nothing else is open team sheet, so all of our sets are hidden and all of our items are hidden still. But we are open team sheet Terra, and we can Terra anything we want. So one of the things I wanted to do was get a good Terra abuser and a really, really powerful Pokemon at the top of my team. And Flutter Mane is by far and away one of the best ways of doing that in the metagame. Now, in draft, will it be a little bit easier to prep for? Probably. But one thing to keep in mind, I think, with this Pokemon is that even though in regular VGC it's still super prepared for on almost every team, and this is one of the most popular threats, every team has to be ready for it, it's still super dominant. So that gives me a little bit more confidence in this Pokemon going into this season that it's going to continue to be dominant. It's oftentimes going to be like a Terra Fairy Pokemon, its ability to Terra Fairy and use stuff like Dazzling Gleam for spread damage. Moonblast is very, very powerful. It has some interesting utility we're talking about, like it has Taunt, it has Thunder Wave, it has Perish Song, Pain Split. There are some other utility, but oftentimes Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, Shadow Ball, some Power Gem, Psyshock if need be. This is going to be a very, very, offensive first Pokemon. The one thing it does have also, which is good to note, is it does have Icy Wind. So it does provide a little bit of speed control as well, which is good to know. But these are kind of the 4 moves we're going to see basically most weeks on my Flutter Mane. Now the next thing I did was take a snow combination. So on my next wheel, I took Ninetales Alola in Baxcalibur. Now, you know, Baxcalibur did not do great for me in GVU by any means at all. That Pokemon was not good in OU, or not in OU, in regular singles draft. But in this league, this is, I think, a really, really powerful opening 2 slots. And in terms of my desire to play a more offensive metagame, a more offensive strategy, I think this is a very, very powerful combination that a lot of teams might not have good ways to handle. So obviously with the Ninetales Alola, we're going to be looking at setting up Aurora Veil pretty frequently in a lot of matchups. So getting that up early and preventing my opponent's team from doing a lot of damage, allowing stuff like the Flutter Mane and the Baxcalibur to do a lot of damage. Now, in combination with Baxcalibur, this is a common, set that you see on a lot of, common teams, and a team that I actually had a lot of difficulty dealing with in my preparation for Toronto. And a lot of the things that we can abuse with this are, Sword Stance. We see, the Icicle Spear, and we see Scale Shot on this as well. Why is Scale Shot not in the common moves? And you see a lot of Loaded Dice sets with this Pokemon. So Loaded Dice is one of the more popular ways to abuse something like Baxcalibur. And then you can use Terra types like Poison as ways to kind of manage that. So this is going to be a common type of set that we're going to see a lot on Baxcalibur to take advantage of the Aurora Veil on this team. Once again, my goal is to be as offensive as possible, and I think this is a good way to start out with Flutter Mane, probably the best offensive Pokemon in VGC, and then using Snow and Baxcalibur as a duo to really put a lot of offensive pressure on those first couple of turns. So with that initial offensive kind of core setup, my next goal here and kind of the rest of the draft is to diversify the offensive pressure I can put on. So I have different ways and different angles of attack. The first one we got was Heatran. Heatran is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. I really, really like this Pokemon, and the reason I like it specifically in VGC is Heat Wave is such a very, very powerful move. So one of the things I was really looking to do was take advantage of spread moves as much as I could. One of the ways to put a lot of pressure in VGC is going to be using those spread moves. And Heat Wave is one of the best ones, and Heatran is one of the best Pokemon at using those spread moves. Now, that's not to say that's all it can do. It does have access to moves like Power Jam. I bring this up multiple times. I actually ran Power Jam Heatran at Toronto Regionals, which is really, really good. It has access to some interesting moves: Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Burning Jealousy. Cookie was using that. Apparently that's supposed to be really good. And some other utility, but this is mainly just going to be a special attacker, mostly. And just using Heat Wave, Flash Cannon if I'm Terra Fairy, for example, Terra Blast if that's an option. But mainly this is just going to be a special attacker that just spams Heat Wave as much as I can, and then can be very customizable in the bulk to make sure it lives a lot of relevant hits. Now, initially I drafted Sinistra, I think is what it's called, but I dropped that because I didn't really think it was going to be really good with Flutter Mane, so I dropped that in the grace period effective week 1, and I picked up Rhyperior. Now, what's interesting about Rhyperior is a few things. One, Rock Slide Abuser. Rock Slide is massive. I did not have a Rock Slide Abuser yet on my team, so I picked one up here. The one other thing to note about this Pokemon is, you can't see it on screen, but it has 40 base stat speed. So if I think about what is on my team right now, my team is a little bit Trick Room weak in that I don't have a way to play around Trick Room well, and Rhyperior gives me a great option to play against Trick Room teams with. Usually it's going to end up being the slowest Pokemon in the matchup, and the ability to spam Rock Slide in those situations will be really, really crucial. Otherwise, it doesn't really have a lot of standout utility that's VGC specific. It's just got a lot of really, really strong coverage moves. It does have Helping Hand, which is nice. That is sometimes an option, able to kind of take in matchups where Trick Room's not relevant. Even though it's a slow Pokemon, have it move first using a Helping Hand to power up something like maybe a Heat Wave from Heatran, or if I go to Flutter Mane, for example, the Dazzling Gleam. Potential option there, but that is a move that it has that you might not necessarily think about, very, very often. It has some other things that could also be interesting. It does have access to some weather moves like Rain Dance and Sunny Day. Maybe that's something that we could try out at some point. Obviously, those would be very, very slow. So likely this Pokemon is just going to be spamming a lot of moves, mainly Rock Slide, and then maybe Helping Hand in the odd niche situation. So the next two Pokemon I picked, one of the Pokemon I have here is actually No, not yet was one of the replacements for Sinistcha. One of them is Pachirisu. I had to get Pachirisu. You know, come on. There's no way I can't get Pachirisu. This Pokemon won a world championship. This Pokemon is hilarious. And this is where we get into one of my first major utility Pokemon in the team. This Pokemon has Encore. This Pokemon has Nuzzle. This Pokemon has Super Fang. It has, you know, Baby Doll Eyes, which could be, or I guess Charm is going to be more effective than Baby Doll Eyes. It has Fake Tears, which Fake Tears is actually going to be really, really good in combination with the Flutter Mane. We're going to get to that on the second Pokemon. Helping Hand, this is one of the ultimate utility Pokemon in VGC. And while, look, it's not the bit bulkiest, 60, 70, 90, it's not great in terms of bulk. Against Pokemon that teams that have a lot of common electric types that are very, very powerful, Pachirisu is going to be good. And I think this Pokemon is just awesome and fun to use. And when I was, you know, deciding to play in this league, Pachirisu was near the top of my list of Pokemon I wanted to get. So I'm super happy to have this one on the team. I'll go by a little quicker now as we get to the next ones because they're not super exciting. Medicham did not have Fake Out on this team yet, so this Pokemon is very, very crucial to have Fake Out utility. There's some interesting things you can do. This does get skill swap, and this does have Pure Power, so that could get a little dicey for opponents in certain scenarios. And then it does have Trick Room as well, which this team is not one that's going to abuse Trick Room a lot, but this can revert the settings of Trick Room in unique situations, so that's interesting to see. And it does have some other utility like Taunt, but mainly this is the Fake Out user that can hit close combats and Zen Headbutts when need be. Cottony here, this doesn't have Tailwind. I'm going to make sure to let you know that this does not have Tailwind. They told me to remind me that it didn't get Tailwind when I drafted it, which I kind of knew. I'm not going to say I 100% knew, but I wasn't necessarily drafting it for that. This Pokemon has a lot of great utility, and Prankster, Encore, Prankster, you know, Switcheroo, Prankster Stun Spore, Prankster Fake Tears especially. That's going to be a lot of powerful things that we can abuse with this Pokemon in conjunction on this team. And one of the better utility Pokemon. And we didn't have an NFE at this point, so in terms of item spread, we only have one Eviolite user at this point, which is super, super important to manage items in VGC, because we are playing with that item clause rule as well. The next two Pokemon, not really relevant. Beartic I drafted because it had Slush Rush. Will I use Beartic often? In one of the pre-draft power rankings, it was commented on being kind of tacked on, and it kind of is, to be honest with you. There's not really much special that this Pokemon is doing. It is probably a candidate to get dropped at some point. But Slush Rush with the Alola Ninetales does give me a little bit of a different avenue to attack, which people will have to respect and prep, certainly. And then Babostiff is a good Intimidate user that's a Dark type, so if there's some Psychic Spam stuff going on my opponent's team, this Pokemon can help manage that as well. So that's the entirety of the team. Put it on screen here, the entire team for you to all take a look at. I'm super, super excited for this season. As I said, I get to play against a lot of cool people in VGC, people that I haven't played before. I haven't played Kirby in a competitive tournament, Draft League before. I am playing him in Goons League, but that's not with the same stakes, if you know what I mean. I get to play against Liv again. I got to play against her in the Friday event at the VGC Regional, which is just a super cool experience. Like, I've known her for, I don't want to age myself, date myself at how long I'm in this community, but literally forever. I get to play against a lot of good VGC players, so this is a really, really big challenge, and not one that I think is going to be smooth. So you're going to see a lot of failures, a lot of big mistakes that I make. So, you know, come along for the ride for a learning experience. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So make sure to subscribe if you are super excited and want to see, you know, someone who's not necessarily a good VGC player kind of learn as I go. So as I said, this is going to be coming up every Wednesday for the next couple of weeks. So we've got 8 weeks of the regular season, and then hopefully playoffs, best of 3 sets every week. And that's all we got. So super excited. We play against Ant. It's whatever next week. He's going to be my week 1 opponent, and then we'll go from there. I'll announce who I'm playing every week after that. So that's all I have for today's video. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you got this far. I will see you all in week 1 next week, and I will see you all for BBR draft analysis on Saturday. And as always, have a wonderful day.